Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Tips to Top the Unofficial Bar. This time I have a very special person for this interview who is a President's Counsel, and he was a former President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, and he was a former Cabinet Minister. And I have with me Mr. Wijeyadasa Rajapakshe, President Counsel, to share his experience with us in this Tips to Top the Unofficial Bar video series. Thank you, sir, for giving us this time. You are a known person to the legal profession, and you elected as the president of the Bar Association in Sri Lanka in the year 2012 with the recorded number of higher votes. That was about 70% vote in favor of you while you were a member of parliament. And you became the President Counsel in the year 2001, and you were the youngest President Counsel at that time. And you were a Cabinet Minister on several occasions, and you are still a Member of Parliament. And I believe all the lawyers, young lawyers, law students, and those who intend to come to the legal profession can learn many good things from you. So first I would like to know the beginning of your professional career, because you coming from out of Colombo, like you were from Walasmulla Hambantota, and you initially got selected to the University of Ruhuna, but you, correct me if I am wrong, you resigned from that university and joined with the law faculty of the Colombo University as an external student to do law while working in the Bank of Ceylon. Why you wanted to enter the profession? Because your parents were not lawyers and your relatives were not lawyers. What was the reason for you to join the legal profession at that time?
In fact, that my determination was to become a lawyer when I was in the school, maybe in grade 8, 9. I am from a very far remote area, that is in Giruapattu. I was born in Kirama, my mother's village. Then I was living in Urevala, that is my father's village, close to Alasmulla town. I studied up to grade 3 in Urevala, at that time primary school. Then I entered into Sri Revata primary school again in Dangodavilla. When I reached to grade 8, the environment in Colombo was not fitting for me. I thought I must go back to village. Then I went to North Kanumoldeniya Mahavidyalaya, which is situated in Pallekanda, that is also close to Alasmulla city. Then I got, I think during that period, it was the best result in the art stream in Hambantota district.
You were the district first in the O-level result.
O-level result. Then of course, in the scheme that was prevailing at that time, I was offered to take any school for my A-level education.
Right.
Then I took my all certificates and came to Ananda College. My choice was that.
Mm-hmm.
I came to the entrance of Ananda College. Then I was thinking about maybe 2 hours whether I must enter or leave the place. Finally, I was compelled to take a decision, and my choice was that I must go back. I didn't want to come to any of the Colombo schools. I went to the same school.
In Hambantota?
Yes, Turukanumoldeniya Mahavidyalaya, where I go through my O-level. While I was continuing my education with great enthusiasm, there was some political turbulence in the area. In 1976, there was a by-election for our electorate Mulkirigala. And there were some nasty teachers also in the school who were engaged in politics. Finally, circumstance was as such that I was sacked from the school. I couldn't do it more than 6 months.
When you are in the A-level studies?
A-level studies. Thereafter, of course, I did politics.
Right.
I had no school to go. Then when it was reaching towards the application, calling for application for A-level, somehow I managed to make the application through the school, but I didn't go to school.
I see.
Then I studied all 4 subjects at home. I didn't go for any tuition class.
Wow.
I read the books. I got the notes from uh, various friends. Then, of course, there was a memorable incident where my class teacher, on the day that admissions cards were distributed in my open class, he wished that out of 31 students, 30 should go to university except one, leaving out me.
That was you.
It was a memorable thing. Then my determination got so firm with that remark. I worked very hard. Then finally what happened was, I was the only student who was selected to the university from that class.
Out of that 31?
31. By the time I was working in the banker's salon as a junior officer, within 1 month after my A-level, I got that employment. I sat for a competitive examination. In fact, I sat for 2 competitive examinations, one for banker's salon, the other one for the People's Bank. I was selected from both. But I chose the first one I got was from the banker's salon. I joined the bank. Then, of course, that I was selected to follow the arts degree in the first batch of Bruno University.
Right.
That examination was so corrupt. Selection was corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
By altering result sheets and by doing favorism to a son of a minister.
In the University of Ruhuna?
No, in the entrance system.
Right.
One of the deputy commissioners was jailed and he died in the prison.
I see.
Then there was no any openness or scope, nothing transparent.
Right.
But I found that I was not given the law faculty, although I made a request. There were students out of 50, at least 30 students had marks below my level.
Right.
Then I went and fought with the secretary of the UGC. It ended up blasting the whole thing. I resigned from the university.
Right.
Following day, I joined the external law faculty in the Columbia University while working in the bank.
You said you wanted to do law even when you are in grade 8, 9, you were thinking of doing law. What made you to think that way, to enter the legal profession at that age?
That is because that I was hurt throughout in my life for the social discrimination and as to how the ordinary people are suffering and as to how the powers that be are exercising their authority arbitrarily.
Right. So now you became an attorney-at-law in the year, which year you became the attorney-at-law?
1984.
Right. And you apprentice under whom?
There are some other memorable things. Now, I completed my external LLB within 2.5 years' time.
Right.
Then thereafter, I had only exactly 6 weeks to sit for the attorney's final from the day I got the LLB result.
Right.
Not that I wanted to get through the exam, I thought at least I will have some experience.
Right.
I decided to sit for the attorney's final within 6 weeks. Of course, I was surprised when I got the result. I had got the second highest mark.
But there you had to study different subjects than what you studied in
the of course, few common, 2 or 3 common subjects, but others were all new subjects.
Right.
And in fact, that I couldn't get the leave from the bank to sit for the exam.
Right. So at that time, I'm sorry, for the law college exams also, did you study by yourself or did you attend lectures?
I never attended any lecture except for the LLB, where I attended the classes of Mr. Nimal Siriwadara. He is the only teacher in the legal profession. and I did all my home studies, no guidance. But I
Self-study.
have seen the past papers. I was going through the past papers and numerous books.
Right.
And in fact, that the Bank of Sri Lanka library was the my university. Whenever I had a 5 minutes or 10 minutes free time, that always I was used to go to the Bank of Sri Lanka library, and I was reading a lot of materials. It was a very valuable thing. And when I had to sit for the attorney's final, of course, 9 subjects papers, I was given only 5 days, 4 or 5 days leave. The rest of the things that I had to manipulate in different ways, and I couldn't stay there more than 2 hours. I wrote for the exam and came back early because I was on duty.
I see. But still, you became the second. You got the second highest mark.
Second highest average mark.
Average marks in the college.
And the gain that I happy was, out of the 50 students who were in the faculty, first 2 students I know took oaths at least 2 years after my taking oaths, because they had a lot of problems in universities, strikes and various things.
Right.
I of course completed within 2.5 years time.
And your apprentice, your senior in the legal profession was Mr. Ikram Muhammad, President Counsel, and if I'm not mistaken, you are the first junior of him. And did you do both civil and criminal in the beginning of your career, or you focused on civil from the beginning?
That was the turning point in my life, because when I went to Halstock to do my apprentice period, I did know a single lawyer there. And I was watching as to how the lawyers were conducting. I was walking from court to court. That I was highly impressed with the conduct of Mr. Mohammed. I didn't know who he was. One day when his case was over, I approached him and sought the permission to be a junior of him. He also didn't check any of my backgrounds. That he said yes. And from that day onwards, on the same day evening, I started working in his chamber. And that was my turning point and my blessing in the life. Then I started, after my taking oaths, I started working under him. But he was basically doing civil cases as well as appeal matters and constitutional matters. But I had not decided in which field that I should develop my career. Like that, what I had to say to the juniors is, beggars can't be choosers. You are also like that when you entered into the legal profession. Then whatever the case, I was retained. I was not interested whether it was civil law, criminal law, or anything else. I accepted the cases to appeal the magistrate court, district court, high court, appeal court, Supreme Court, then Ren boards. Then there were those days a lot of cases before the ceiling on Housing Property Board of Review. Except going to the police stations, that I appeared before all the courts and tribunals.
I'm sure, sir, you have so many experience in your professional career from which others can learn, and we would like to hear some of the stories and incidents where you experienced in the courthouse with the judges or with the lawyers or with the clients, from which others can learn. I also would like to know, in the same question from you, that I have seen how you cross-examine witnesses in the district court, and your approach is different. Basically, we were told that the counsels will have 2 different approach. Either they have hard approach where they shout at the witness or make anger at the witness or upset. The other approach is you make the witness comfortable, but you take the witness to the point where you get the answer what you want. And your approach most of the time was the latter. And in your answer, I would like to know from you your technique you are using in cross-examining, because you are famous for that also, that you corner the witness to the point where you get the answer you want for the case.
At the beginning, there was one unpleasant incident. I think that I was too aggressive while I was cross-examining a witness where he was painted in the witness box. That was at the beginning of my career, and I learned a big lesson out of it. Thereafter, I had never been rude to any of the witnesses, however much they lied. I always resorted to a method where that's to please the witness in the first place, and gradually for him to feel that I am not his opponent, I am like always like his guardian. Then of course that witness also feel that nothing can go wrong if I come out with the truth. And likewise that I was able to get what I wanted from the witnesses. I think more than 90% that I was successful in that. If I may cite one of the cases where one of the greatest lawyer, Mr. A.C. Gunaratna, Queen's Counsel, was opposed to me, and he was leading the evidence of one of the richest business entrepreneur in Colombo. And thereafter, when I got a chance to cross-examine him, I thought that I must have a different approach. Then I was asking few questions just to make him very pleasant and comfortable, and gradually that nobody knew that after half an hour's time that when I started asking all the questions that he started talking the truth.
Which is in your favor in the case.
Yes, of course the truth was in my favor in that case. Then finally the judgment was given in my favor. It went up to the Supreme Court, and I can remember there were 4 President's Counsel retained for the other side. I was not even a President Counsel at that time. The team was led by Mr. Choksi, and juniors were Mr. Arthur Samarasekara, Mr. Faiz Mustafa, Mr. E.D. Vikramanayaka, and few others. Still I battled alone before Chief Justice G.P.S. De Silva. Finally that his question was that how can you contradict the evidence given by your own client? The question asked from the other side. And judgment was affirmed. Likewise, if I had to talk the experience, of course, I had to talk about several days. And at the beginning, of course, then I was not from a big school in Colombo like Royal, Thomian, and the attitude of the senior lawyers and most of the lawyers at Halsdorf was quite different. It was not like today's atmosphere. There were no enough chances for ordinary people or the people from the outstations to build up a practice in Colombo. Then I have been humiliated several times, and some of the lawyers didn't want to retain me because I am not from a clan that belongs to them. Therefore, some of the proctors have withdrawn the cases brief from me. And once I was humiliated by one lawyer saying that my English was not good, but I told him, he was a very senior lawyer at Halsdorf. Finally, we argued for about 2 hours. The order was given in my favor. Still, I can remember judgment by Mr. Moraes, retired judge, district judge. Then at the end of the case, after the decision was pronounced, I was compelled to say in open court, I told the judge, sir, today I taught my learned friend law, tomorrow I will have to teach him English. But all those obstacles I took with the spirit of, victory. Therefore, that I broke all the obstacles, I went ahead. And when I started writing a book, some people were laughing at me.
What was your first book?
First book was Case Law and Civil Procedure Code.
Right, and so far you have written 26 books, if I'm not mistaken.
Now my 29th one is in the print.
But the digest on Civil Procedure Code, which
Case
you
law.
prepared, Case Law, is undoubtedly the most famous book among the legal professionals, because we could see any civil court, district court, or in any appellate court, your book is available with more than one of the lawyers in the court.
And also on the bench.
On the bench.
I am so happy because, in fact, it has a history. When I was a junior, I have been to several chambers, like chamber of Mr. Bernanijetunga Queen's Counsel, Mr. Navaratna Raja Queen's Counsel, Mr. B.J. Fernando President's Counsel. Then I found that how much of time they are wasting for searching authorities. They ask in junior, you take 65 NLR, see whether this kind of judgment is there. He says no, then he will take another 1 hour to search another 75 NLR. He says nothing. Likewise, they were wasting hours and days searching authorities. Then I was thinking, what a crime is that? Therefore, I wanted to have a digest for my personal use. Then I started beginning of the NLR, not the NLR, before that there were Ceylon law recorders and various reports. I started with the oldest one and I collected all the judgments which comes within the ambit of the civil procedure code. Then of course when I had to compile all those things, I think up to section 10 it took months.
Right.
Then I thought another crime that I am doing.
Right.
For me to have a digest, I am wasting days and weeks, not further. Then again I made up my mind, no, that's I must do it, doesn't matter however much I consume the time for the benefit of the entire profession. Then of course I took about, while I was having a busy practice during that period, I took about 3 years. And when I launched that book, some of the seniors were laughing at me and ridiculing and making some comments. But I am glad to say that I saw that several years later, all those lawyers were carrying this book in their hand.
Yeah.
Of course, some of the people, they had removed the cover page and without just to make it that no one will be able to identify as so and so's book, and they had put a different cover.
So another, you are an exemplary person from various aspects, but especially I would like to highlight the fact that you continued your education after LLB, because we know the moment lawyers stop studying the law, he is dead. But you have gone further, and you have, after your LLB, you have got 4 university degrees, postgraduate degrees, and 2 are related to the studies of Buddhism, and one is from the University of Kelaniya on Buddhist philosophy, the other from the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, if I'm not mistaken, about the
That is
Buddhist
MPhil.
Now, what made, and in you, we saw you appear in number of cases with regard to this Buddhist law apply. What made you to do further studies, postgraduate studies on Buddhist law? And I see in your chamber also you have so many books with regard to the Buddhist law and Buddhist culture history. Why that?
I would like to mention here that one of the glaring points as to why the legal professionals fail. I identified that at the beginning.
What was that?
That is because when you become a lawyer, you think that you have already studied everything. Nothing you have to learn.
Right.
In fact, my understanding was at that time also, you become a student only after you becoming a lawyer. Then only you will have to study. So what had been learned by you before becoming a lawyer, that is just only to pass the gate. Then only that you are meeting your university to study whatever the subject that you like. And therefore that just after I became a lawyer, I sat for the master exam 11Q in the University of Colombo. I go through that one, but I could not continue with my further education due to the heavy or the busy schedule of my profession and various other activities. But still I wanted to continue. Then in somewhere in 2005 I sat for MAQ because I wanted to shift the A field I wanted to study the Buddhist philosophy. Then I sat for that exam in University of Ruhuna. Thereafter I did a research on uh, the Buddhist temporalities law in Sri Jawadanapura Kotte University. Then of course I registered for PhDs, 2 PhDs simultaneously. That is while I was in the peak of my profession as well as a member of the legislature.
Right.
I registered for the PhD in Columbia University to do a thesis on the 1978 Constitution, the democracy and executive presidency. At the same time, I registered in the Kalani University to make a comparative analysis on the concept of justice and concept of Dhamma. And parallelly, I completed both PhDs together. And in the meantime, that I got an opportunity to do a diploma in on conflict resolution in Freiburg University in Switzerland.
So you entered the politics in the way that you entered the parliament as a nationalist MP, and thereafter you contested and you held number of important ministries, including the Minister of Justice. To serve the people, what is the best? Do you have to be a politician, or can you do more to the people by being a politician?
Certainly, that if you are holding a political office such as a Minister of Justice or maybe other ministries, you can do a lot. In fact, that I had any ambition to become a legislator. All of a sudden in 2004, Ms. Chandrika Bandaranaike, then President, invited me to become a member of Parliament as well as the Minister of Constitutional Affairs. I refused to take over any ministry, any portfolio. But at her request, then I, of course, accepted the appointment on the national list as MP. Then, when Mahinda Rajapakshe became the president in 2005 November, he offered me a ministry, but I refused. Later on, when he insisted that I must help him, and I accepted the banking development ministry, in 5 months' time that I resigned because I thought that anymore I can't work in that government true to my conscience.
Now that is one of the very important attribute of you, where we could not see in Sri Lankan politics. You have resigned in several occasions from ministerial portfolios on the footing that you will not work against your conscience. Have you fed up in politics?
If you have to fed up with politics, then you will have to fed up with the life also, because you can't live without politics. That is the oldest science in the world. If you look at the interpretation given 2300, 400 years ago, people like Socrates, Aristotle, and without politics you can't live. And as to how a country should rule, what are the principles under which the people should be governed, all have been taught by the Buddha as well as Jesus Christ. Therefore, for the continuation of the human society, you have to do politics.
But in the way, in the spirit that you may be talking about.
My principle is that I will do whatever I do, I have to do according to true to my conscience. Secondly, if you are doing the politics, that you cannot have any compromise with anybody.
Right.
It has to be the best interest of the people and the country.
Exactly. So you have achieved so many things in the private bar. You had achieved the top, where you became the president of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, and you became the youngest president council at that time. And even in the political career of you became you were appointed first as a nationalist MP, then you contested, you got the highest number of votes in that electorate, defeating all the other politicians, and you became a cabinet minister in several governments, and you have got so many awards like the Outstanding Young Person Award, and in the 2007 you got LMD Award for Sri Lankan of the Year award, and you even got Gandhi Peace Award at one point, and from the Office of Organization Professional Association awarded the Apex Award to you in the year 2013. You must be a very busy person with all politics and legal life. What is the success? Would you like to share some of the things of your success or your secrets for the young lawyers?
In fact, that not only the ministerial portfolios, I held large number of offices in the public sector. In I think 2005, I became the chairman of the Rent Board of Review. Then I became the chairman of the Sri Lanka Press Council. I was elected as the deputy president of the World Association of Press Council. Then I was a director of Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation, a director of Film Corporation, managing director Lake House Associated Newspapers, Ceylon. Then I was the chairman of the Olympic Doping Committee for more than 10 years.
And you were a chairman of the CORP committee as well.
Yeah, then after I resigned from the ministry of former President Wijeyadasa Rajapakshe, in fact, he requested me to become the chairman of the CORP. Then finally, irrespective of the political differences, except 3 JVP members, all the members voted for me.
Even the members who were in opposition side voted in your favor to elect you as the chairman.
All voted for me except that 3 members, because my opposing candidate was from the JVP, therefore he had his party votes. Then of course I realized that was a place where that you can do a better job than a minister, exposing corruption and preventing that kind of scenario in the future. Therefore that I presented 2 reports to the parliament, and I exposed corruption tuning up to over 300 billion in 2007, whereas that our annual revenue was around 800 billion. And by doing that, I antagonized politicians from both sides. The culprits were in both sides.
And you were once under attack in your house. There were shot fired at your house.
That is on a different ground, when I was fighting against the impeachment.
Right.
On former Chief Justice Shirani Bandaranaike. Then they started attacking me, including the shooting at house.
At that time you were the president of the Bar Association. So nowadays the legal profession is said to be very competitive, and high number of lawyers entering the legal profession. And obviously there is a huge competition among the young lawyers who are trying to establish their place in the legal profession. What is your advice to young lawyers and law students who are to be lawyers in 5 years' time in this country?
I think that most of the lawyers who have failed in this profession have failed to understand some significant features in the profession. According to my understanding, what they must first understand is this is not a business. This is a profession, and this is an honorable profession. This is a noble profession. First thing that they must determine, they will maintain the dignity of the profession. If you deviate from that principle, whatever you do will be ended up in a disaster. And the second thing, legal profession is a unique profession which cannot be compared to any other profession in the world, even to the oldest profession. Then you become a lawyer, your talents has to be multifaceted.
Right.
If you are a medical doctor, then your knowledge, that your experience could be limited to a particular area. If you are a surgeon, that you learn only how to do the surgery. but there is no any competition with your colleague.
Right.
But here the only profession where that the members are confronted with each other, heavily confronted. With that scenario, you have to be multifaceted, because when the medical doctor do the surgery, that nobody knows how he's performing. Maybe he may have done a blunder and patient killed. Even engineers are like that. He make a blunder after 10-15 years time, when the building collapse, only that you realize
Right.
that he is incompetent. But here when you perform, the whole world is watching at you, including the judge, including your client, the opposing clients, the other people gather in open court. And therefore that you must not leave any room for your failure. For that you will have to have a armory.
Right.
So what are they? If you are a lawyer, if you have to be successful, first thing, you must equip with your knowledge, comprehensive knowledge. That most of the lawyers nowadays have no reading habit, and they think there is nothing for them to learn because they have read everything and passed the exam. That kind of lethargic attitude always, throw your standard far below. Therefore, when you go for a case, the first thing, you must learn the case. Secondly, you must learn the law. Thirdly, how the law is applicable to the case. Without that knowledge, that you must not step into the courthouse. Secondly, however much that you know the law, it is absurd that if you don't know how to tackle the client. Because you get a case if the client is pleased.
Right.
Then when you talk to a client, then you also must maintain the dignity of the client also. Some of the lawyers I have seen, I have heard, the litigants are treated like, unworthy. But your successful your success or failure will depend upon the client. Therefore that you must have due regard and respect to the client, and you should know how to talk to the client, how to address the client, and you must listen to the client. Sometimes they are talking nonsense. We know, being a senior lawyers, some litigants talking nonsense, nothing to do with the case.
Yes.
But just because of that, you must not stop him in a respectful manner, that you can deviate him to the correct track.
Right.
Number 3, however much that you have pleased the litigant, your client, and however much that you have equipped with your knowledge on law, it is absurd that if you don't know how to convince the judge.
Right.
When you have to convince the judge, there are 2 things. One is the manner in which that you address the court. The second is the manner in which that you make the representations. The judge has to be convinced that you are doing you are doing your best to do the justice for your client. The judges know that. But at the same time, that you can't mislead the court. That must be convinced at the same time that you, being an officer of the court, that you are trying to assist the judge. When the client is thinking that my lawyer is trying to do his best for my benefit, at the same time that the judge must think that this lawyer is doing his best to assist the court.
Correct.
Then that you are convincing both sides. For that purpose, you will have to learn the judge also. That there are some senior lawyers who say, people like legal giants or eagles like Attorney-at-Law Silva, H.V. Perera, and senior lawyers like them. They knew how to convince the judges that the way that they are addressing, the way they pay the respect to the judges, that is also arts in this legal profession. That part also you know. Then the other thing is that sometimes the judges are different. When you go to court A, the judge's attitude towards lawyers is somewhat pleasing. But when you go to court B, that judge is rather arrogant that he has no regards to the lawyer. And there are peculiar judges sometimes. You can understand what kind of judge he is. Some judges are talking too much, therefore they know that he's the inner side. Some judges don't talk at all, therefore that you can't gauge, understand what is his attitude, and you don't know where to address. And sometimes the lawyers go and address in a manner where nobody can understand. They start the story from the top and try to go to bottom.
Right.
And those things have to be organized. That before you go to court, if you know the judge's attitude, then you must gradually, try to please him in the manner that he wants, but without allowing any prejudice to be caused to the rights of your client. And other thing is that you have to be genuine. You have to be honest with the court, irrespective of the nature of the judge, his attitudes. You have to be honest. You can't mislead the court. You can't say that 10 NLA judgment is in your favor and you cite that one without citing the 20 NLA case as overruled. You must cite both and say the 20 NLR is wrong, the 10 NLR is correct. That is how that you must show your honesty in courts.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving us this opportunity and time and sharing your experience and success. And I wish you all the best for your future endeavors.
Thank you very much.